You're watching the Neighbors and Newsroom Summit, building collaborations that better inform and engage South Jersey. This event is made possible by the Geraldine R. Foundation and from viewers like you. We're going to have a quick chat now with some media professionals you may recognize from around the region. I'd like to take the opportunity to introduce first our Assistant News Director here at WHYY, Katie Colaneri. Also, Denise Clay Murray, who is a writer and proofreader at the Philadelphia Sunday Sun. Miss Afiyah Tucker, who is a PR professional and broadcaster with the Philadelphia Sunday Sun. And Noah Zucker, a reporter at Tap Into Candom. Thank you all for joining us. Good afternoon. Let's start with the first question, and I'll throw it to you, Katie. You know, we're all very busy news professionals, so what would an email need to say in its subject line, or what would an individual have to say to you in person for you to get to devote time to read their pitch?
Yeah, I mean, I would say, often a sense of, uniqueness or something new or something that indicates that something is happening right now or is about to happen really helps get an editor like me's attention. Timing is a huge element of pitches that I think sometimes even really experienced reporters don't always think about, and that's really going to be the key for an editor. Why is this a story that we want to spend resources on telling right now? Why does the public need to hear about this right now? Or is the time ripe for this story maybe a few months down the road when something is on the precipice or something has already happened?
Thank you for that. Same question to you, Afiyah. What would an email have to say to get your attention?
You know what? I really like when people personalize the email, when they understand exactly what my beat is, what I write about. Timing is always very important, but back to what Katie said, it's really the why. And that's what I tell people on both sides whether it's consultant on the PR side or even, as a journalist, I'm always looking for that very important element, that timely factor. How does this affect our readers? Would our readers be interested? Would they care? Because that's who I work for. I work for the company, but I really serve our readers. So that's the number, 1, 2, 3 things for me is this something that I can even help you with? Is this something relevant? Are you concise? Do I really understand what you're doing and what's going on? And can we work together?
Thank you for that. No, I think what Afiyah said, that last part is really interesting, right? Am I the right person to even help you? That speaks to researching and getting to know who the reporter or editor is covering that beat and making sure you're pitching to the right person, right?
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. For example, I'm only focused on the city of Camden. I still get a lot of stuff that's about Camden County, but it's always good to know exactly who you're talking to before you're emailing them. And usually there's information about people's beats and stuff online. You can find that on their social media or on their muck rack, something like that. It's always good to do your research before reaching out. Yeah.
Quick follow-up question for you, Noah, and then Denise. And I'm interested in your takes on this. What's the worst way? We just heard from Katie and Afiyah about best practices. What's the worst practice? What's the worst way that someone can pitch you?
I really don't like emails where it starts with who, what, when, why, where.
Okay.
I usually like to get it like she said. I'm sorry. I think Afiyah said, if you can address me personally and kind of acknowledge who I am and why I might be interested. That's a good practice.
I appreciate that.
But yeah, you don't want to just a miss block format that you're filling out.
So like a media advisor, just shooting a random media advisor over, and somebody just included you in a big email list, you're probably likely to ignore that one.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that.
Okay, I hope people in the audience are listening. If you're gonna pitch Noah, make sure you email him directly. Denise, what would you say? What's the worst way to pitch you?
At one time, I was an English teacher. So when you send me a pitch where my name, which is relatively easy to spell, is misspelled, okay, you're going in the cylindrical file because you didn't even take the time to make sure that your pitch was grammatically and linguistically correct before you sent it to me. And that's a problem, because that also tells me that if I take on your story, I am going to have to fight through a whole lot of disorganization. And that's not only not going to help me do my job, it's not going to help the reader be able to understand, or the reader or the listener be able to understand what it is, what it is you're doing, what it is you or your organization is trying to do.
Yeah.
Another thing that's, that will just make me decide I'm not doing this story is if you come at me in such a way where you act as if I don't do this story, I've committed some sort of crime against God and man. And I get those too. Look, what people need to understand about the journalism business right now is that while there are more outlets technically doing the job, there are fewer people. And if I'm going to take the time that I have, which isn't a whole lot because I cover Philly politics in addition to everything else, which means I have stuff coming at me all the time, to go to cover your event, I would really like for you to take that into consideration and make sure that when you send me what you need to send me, that I can read exactly what's going on from moment to moment, so I know when I can come in and get the most information for my readers possible.
Thanks for that. Well, I'll just say for me, putting in the headline "free food" will always get my attention.
It'll do that for most journalists.
Exactly. Katie, many institutions have the luxury of having a comms director who can write press releases for the media's consideration. What can residents who are watching today, who may not have the skill to write a press release, how can they compete with that? What are your tips?
I would say, personally for me, I don't really think you need to be able to write like a traditional press release. Honestly, I get more excited about hearing from the average member of the community than I do about hearing from a PR person. So if you just send me a note with something that's going on in your community, I mean, that's something that I really get excited about, and that I definitely consider writing about for sure.
Katie?
I got really excited when he said that, because I totally feel the same way. The PR emails can be kind of obnoxious. They can be really generic. You know that they're going to other outlets, whereas it's nice it's interesting, because I feel like we're echoing a lot of the things that we heard in the last segment about the way communities feel when journalists come in. Journalists feel the same way. They want to feel special. They want to feel known and seen. And they want to know that the community is seeking them out, because then that conveys this sense of like, oh, you're coming to me because you think that we could be a trustworthy venue to help tell your story. And so having, I would say, kind of an openness to sharing as many details about what you're pitching as possible is helpful. A sense that this isn't maybe just your individual pet issue, maybe like, oh, I'm really upset with my city because they're doing this. It's always helpful when we have a sense that like, oh yeah, and I've talked to my other neighbors too, and other people are experiencing the same problem. That helps us get an indication that, there might be something a little bit more here than just your personal grievance against, a government or a group. That's not to say that we wouldn't tell that story depending on the circumstances, but that's, something that helps too. So just bringing your authentic self. Here's the thing that I think, other people might be interested in if you told this story. And then also a good way to get in touch with you so that, we know how to follow up with you. A lot of times we will, we'll sometimes get anonymous pitches or people who don't include, a phone number where one of our journalists can then call you to talk a little bit more face to face. All of that up front, if you're comfortable, is really, really helpful.
Denise, Afiyah, either one of you guys want to weigh in on that point?
I would definitely love to. Katie and Noah said some really interesting things. I I guess I want to start with your last question about competing with big PR firms. I don't think you necessarily have to. My biggest pet peeve, honestly, is getting an email that I just can't understand what's going on. Mm-hmm. And I don't care if it's 5 pages. I don't care if it's who, what, when, what, why. I had someone send me a very long press release. I wasn't even bothered by it because I was on a tight deadline. We wanted to run it, but it gave me every single thing that I needed, everything. So what I would say for community people is to be available, be able to pitch yourself, get used to the word pitch, but be able to tell your story in 30 seconds. Mm-hmm. Be able to tell your story in 2 to 3 sentences. Be available, because when a news outlet do want to contact you and then you're not available, and the people who you had pitched in the email, they aren't available for emails, and we can't contact you, or like Katie said, you're anonymous, then that does become a problem. But the whole element, back to what Katie said, was feeling special, feeling important. We love getting information that we know that's not being sent out to every outlet in Philadelphia, and just really being clear about who you are, work on developing personal relationships. I've done really, really well just overall, and everything that I've done professionally because of those personal connections, and just being consistent with my words and with my actions, who I am and what I actually represent. And to Noah's point, you send that email and you just kind of introduce yourself and you say hello and you say, I understand it. You know, these are the type of stories you write for. I have something that I think may pique your interest. You know, please let me know. That works. And you don't have to have the traditional press release. But I will say, though, to my PR folks that, you know, they teach us that in school. And I think it's just maybe even a generational gap. I graduated in 2007, right? So, you know, things have changed so much between now and 2021, where you don't really have to know how to write this 1-page, you know, press release or 1-page media advisory anymore. You just really have to know how to convey your message as clear as possible, and then work on building personal relationships with people in the media.
Thank you for that. We have about 5 minutes left in this segment. Denise, I want to give you a chance to respond to that in 60 seconds, and then we'll do a quick roundabout on the last question.
Well, probably first of all, if you send me a 5-page press release, I'm hitting delete. And
someone's done it though.
And second of all, and Afiyah knows this, community groups that want to learn how to better present themselves to news outlets, the Philadelphia Association of Black Journalists does a media access workshop every year, where that is one of the things we teach you. So be on the lookout for what community groups like PABJ can do to help you help yourself.
Thank you for that. Last question for you guys. Let's go around the Bay, starting with Noah. What types of stories are you interested in being pitched, and what's the best way to reach you?
I'm definitely interested in stories that have a big impact on people in the Camden community. It doesn't have to be the entire Camden community, but even if it's just like one block or one neighborhood or even a couple of houses. The best way to pitch me is my email, which is nzucker, NZUCKER @tapinto.net. And I read pretty much everything that comes in through there. So yeah, that's the best place to get in touch with me.
Thank you for that. And Noah, you're pretty new to the job, so congratulations on that role. And you know, let's keep the lines of communication open. Love to get to know you and some of your work better. Katie, what types of stories are you interested in, and how can people best reach you?
Frankly, at this point, we are interested in any and all stories about South Jersey, you know, which is such a huge geographical area. And we currently only have one reporter who is specifically assigned to cover that right now. We are hiring a new state government reporter at the moment. And so that'll bring our team to 2. So we really are, you know, looking for any stories that folks want to pitch us. One thing that we do have coming down the pike is a new service called Hearken that's going to allow us to solicit questions from the community that you can send us directly through an online platform. So please stay tuned to WHYY.org and social media for more information about that. In the meantime, you can pitch me via email at Colaneri@WHYY.org. I would love to hear from you.
Thank you for that. Denise?
Well, first of all, I am a native of Pemberton, New Jersey, a section of South Jersey that gets almost no coverage. So My hope is that the folks at WHYY or anybody else who's listening to this will actually understand that Route 38 goes a little further than Camden County. And, you know, there are a lot of stories there in my former military hometown. If you would like to pitch something to me, my email address is Denise the Writer one. That's DenisTheWriter with the number one, and that's all one word, at gmail.com. Or if it's easier, you can just, you know, send me stuff via Twitter at Denise the Writer. And I do a lot of politics. I cover politics, but I also like covering community stories. I write about food trends. I write about all sorts of stuff. So if you have that kind of thing in South Jersey and you'd like to talk to me about it, I'd love to do it.
Thank you for that. And Denise is a witty political analyst, and you can catch her and I on every other Tuesday, at least on WHYY. We're kind of back in the rotation there, and it's good to be with you, Denise, and it's good to see you. Afiyah, what stories are you interested in, and how can people best reach you?
Absolutely. So I mostly interested, well, I can't even say just because what I'm interested, but what I write about is art, entertainment, lifestyle. And we love covering local news. So, you know, that's definitely Jersey, that's Philadelphia, that's our surrounding suburbs. Believe it or not, I write way more stories about local happenings than, you know, some of the more pop culture trending entertainment stories. So we're looking to find out like what's going on, especially in the Black community. I write for one of the oldest and longest running African-American newspapers in the country, here in the city, the Philadelphia Tribune. So we're always looking, you know, for stories about, you know, people of color in our communities. I do have the opportunity sometimes to write outside of my beat sometimes, but I'm always willing and open to share that with my colleagues, whether that be, you know, Denise or anybody else that's, you know, here on this panel, or with other news outlets, with folks who are in the newsroom at the Philadelphia Tribune as well. So if it comes to me, I'm passionate about community happenings. So I definitely try to help, you know, as much as I can. You can reach me by email at AfiyahTucker@yahoo.com, and that's AFEATUCKER is my first and last name at yahoo.com. That's my personal email. That's the best way to reach me. I work out of it all day long. So.
Thank you so much. Katie Colaneri, Assistant News Director at WHYY. Denise Clay Murray, writer and proofreader at the Philadelphia Sunday Sun and a political analyst at Word Radio. Afiyah Tucker, lifestyle and culture reporter at the Philadelphia Tribune, and Noah Zucker, reporter and editor at Tap Into Camden. Thank you so much for joining us for this important conversation. Thank you.